r/too afraid to ask. Why is everyone so okay with working 40 to 60 hours per week to barely afford life? This is why most people are miserable, including me. The beginning of life is the best time ever. Once you start school to stay there until you graduate. Once you graduate HS and/or college, you work for the next 40 or 50 years, and then and only then do you get to enjoy life. Right when your life is about to end. Because revolution involves a worse life in the short term. Change is always hard. Imagine how hard it is to quit an addiction or start a health habit, and multiply that by 10, and expect everyone to do it together to affect change. Two things. First, the standard of living I presume you to have since you have using the internet is not simply continue living, but is higher than any standard of living 99.9% of people who have ever lives on this planet ever had. Of course, this is not guaranteed. You could still have internet being the poorest person alive, but it's less likely, I would say. Secondly, I think that in the past, people had to work way more than 40 to 60-hour weeks to support a much lower standard of living. There is almost no concept of free time. Working 12-hour days 6-day weeks was normal for the vast majority of people. I think the true problem is that we are always comparing us upward with people doing better than we and not realize that all in all, quality of life continuously rises. It may be slow. It may dip from time to time. But the world as a whole is not getting worse. It just might seem that way sometimes. In 1987 I worked 2 full-time jobs. Total of over 80 hours per week. Working 364 days that year and getting off Christmas Day, since both places were closed. In 1989 I worked 90 hours per week as a Radio Shack manager in my store. It had the second highest sales gain in the Western U.S. By the way, in 1999 I worked over 80 hours per week as a CEO of my own software development firm, billing my clients for over 60 hours at $100 per hour. And this was preferable to the previous employment for other companies when I had to work 50 to 60 hours per week salaried, and when I worked for those other companies and having to work so many unpaid hours. I had to drive 1.5 hours both to and from work. So this compounds the amount of unpaid time you have to invest to pay your mortgage. So I have to say to you, really? I am 36 and so exhausted I work all day I don't see my kids and we are barely making it. It shouldn't be this expensive to live. Hopefully you should move up in your career and not live your entire life like this. Also, what's your alternative? Not work and pay rent? We live in a society. I don't think people are okay with it. They just do it to live. Because I love my job and can't stand sitting home or doing nonsense. But that's my current job, not any others I have had. You gotta live, so we work. I don't think anyone's okay with living like that, hence why so many people work hard to change their situation and empower themselves. At 24 years old, you haven't even really gotten involved with life as an adult yet. So it stands to reason that you'd be in this kind of position. Things change as you make progress in life. 100% agree. My spouse and I were taking about having a kiddo and came to the realization we can't afford to. I work 40 to 50 hours in an autistic center and she's a district supervisor at her job. It's insane. People aren't okay with it. People have to survive. If you want change, you have to act to change things. You have to vote for those you support change and against those who support regressive systems. If you live in the USA, you have a brief period to change things in the next few years. Otherwise, the system will only get worse. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't even live, let alone barely afford to lol. Nobody is okay with it. But you've gotta survive in a fucked up system somehow. Also, welcome to harsh reality. Boomers fucked everyone over. So most millennials have been living this way for the past decade or more. I know this isn't gonna be a popular answer, and for the most part, I'm with ya, but basically everyone on this website has access to entertainment in most free moments. We have it better than humanity has had it at almost every other time in our history. In Silicon Valley, I know tons of people who do so much work after hours just to stay competitive. We are all normalizing this. Scary reminds me of that documentary American Factory. Are we all moving towards that model? At age 24, you are basically at the shit end of the job market. Hardly any experience. Probably not found your niche yet. Relax. Keep your head up for new options. The way it works, for better or worse, is you work your ass off for not much to show in the first 5 to 10 years of your career. You climb the ladder and do better later. The fight to survive is nothing new and the essence of the human experience. If you don't want to work, fine. Find another way to survive. But I'd much survive this way than hunt and live in a straw hut. Not I am working 50 to 70 hours and in 1 year all my debts are paid. I have 8K in my savings and in 1 month I'll be sober for a year. You gonna start a revolution with the guns and ammo you can't afford? 2 things. First, the standard of living I presume you to have since you have using the internet is not, simply, continue living, but is higher than any standard of living 99.9% of people who have ever lives on this planet ever had. Of course, this is not guaranteed. You could still have internet being the poorest person alive. But it's less likely, I would say. Secondly, I think that in the past, people had to work way more than 40 to 60-hour weeks to support a much lower standard of living. There is almost no concept of free time. Working 12-hour days 6-day weeks was normal for the vast majority of people. I think the true problem is that we are always comparing us upward with people doing better than we and not realize that all in all, quality of life continuously rises. It may be slow. It may dip from time to time. But the world as a whole is not getting worse. It just might seem that way sometimes. Probably like things were the last time the economy shit the bed. Either you would work like a slave, do illegal shit to get by, or try and become something big to escape either of those. It'll lead to some interesting shit eventually, that's for sure. I found a job where I walk to. I have a grocery store I can walk to. Anything else if I desperately need it I get online. I learned to cut corners. I'm not okay with it. It's so difficult making a living. Hence why some people resort to sex work. I wished it wasn't so looked down on. They're just trying to survive. Either you live above your means or you don't have marketable skills. If I don't, I may wind up sleeping under a bridge. None of us are okay with it, but what can we do? Some people complain and blame anything they can. Some people play the game and win. You can choose which one you are. When people stop being victims in life, the hurdles seem easier to clear. You are working at 24. You are already ahead in the game. If you hate your current career, take ownership and find something you want. Hate. Gen Z is the victim generation. Wanted to edit this and add. I am 1982. The beginning of the millennials. We get absolutely shit on by boomers who are clawing on to just keep pace. But thank God I wasn't born a General Z victim. Also, I first started my career at 30. This is because shit was also hard for us. Constantly working minimum wage jobs while I took school loans for a college degree. Just frantically playing catch up because I constantly have felt behind my entire life. It's how we all feel when we are forced to due to the societal pressures and economic pressures of capitalism. It's the system that is making you feel what you feel. Learn the game and play it. Or don't. Or, my son is your age and I sincerely appreciate the challenges. And I don't envy you. For myself, I can say a 40-hour week is a vacation for me. Past couple decades has been more like 50 to 70. Add in kids, wife, custody battles, WXs, funding grown kids and having nothing to retire on. Well, let me tell you, you're just at the very beginning of all the fun. IDK anyone who's so OKW it. But I do have a roof over my head and groceries in the pantry. Maybe just be happy you haven't been drafted and flown into Vietnam? IDK, trying to be positive. But no, we're not OKW it. Does this seriously need to be a daily post? These weekly, I hate life, posts are adorable. I'm going to sound like a baby boomer. But, bro, seriously. What's the alternative unless you have rich parents? Most humans are born to live a life of mediocrity so that a select few can enjoy glamour, wealth and luxury. We aren't, we just literally have no other choice. What's the alternative? I don't know. My dad grew up sharing a bed with 4 siblings. Turnip on a stick was a treat and I am talking Canada. It sucks but it's better. Have you been in anti-work? People absolutely aren't fine with it. And one day or another this is going to explode. America lol. Nobody's okay with it, the alternative is death. What can the average person do? We are powerless. And people can't be without a place to live, so we have no choice. In some areas like NY, rent control is a thing and I wish it was everywhere. Unless you're married or have roommates you can't really afford anything halfway decent, but even people that have the rent to split with others or 2 household incomes are still struggling and it's really scary. Exclamation mark. GIF. Giphy, Z9HZLKFLOLX Joe 349 DA. Out of interest, what industry are you in? Do you have a university education? I work 50 to 60 and I make like 4 times what my rent is. You just have a really low paying job. I'm not okay with it, but I have no other options. I've been saving and investing money as well to try to build something, but I'm still broke. Edit. Some of y'all are getting hung up me using the word broke because I invest small amounts of money when I'm able to. So I guess what I mean is that I pretty much only have money to survive, which is a bummer. Oh, this thread again. Until people go back to their roots and realize lawns are for growing crops and not grass, it'll never change. We're not. We're all just biding time till things collapse. We are not okay. We don't have other options, period. I'm not okay with it. That's why I work about 16 hours a week but get paid for the full 40. I realize I am lucky and most people can't do this. I work remote and finish my workload as efficiently as I can so I can do what I want the remaining 24 work hours. This is adulthood in basically every human civilization after the dawn of agriculture. And childhood too. In lots of them. You want to live in a society that can provide smartphones, video games, and kidney transplants. You're going to have to spend time working. If you want to live self-sustainably off the land. You're welcome to try. But you won't be fucking around on Reddit nearly as much. Because we don't have the choice. We are not okay with it, but answer this. What other options are there? We're not. In the U.S., CEOs make about 300 times the amount of an average worker. Since 1978, the salary of a CEO has gone up by about 940%, while average worker has only seen a 12% rise. In the U.S., rich people pay less in taxes overall and often have ways to access additional methods to avoid paying them. Since the housing crash of 2008, companies have maintained lean staffing practices, meaning you're required to do more with no real pay increase. Minimum wage hasn't increased with inflation. Salaries and wealth need to be capped. Pay for the bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid needs to be increased. All taxes need to be progressive and the wealthy need to pay more. It's not that everyone is okay with it. People just don't have the time nor options to do anything else. Politicians, red and blue both, support the rich and create culture wars, so that any change is seen as political. Can we fucking stop with these questions? Or maybe make a mega thread for it? This seems to be all this sub is now, and based on how many get posted, nobody is afraid to ask. I live in Vancouver where a house costs about $1.5 million. My brother lives in a small town about 8 hours north. His house cost $200,000. Everyone wants the best but doesn't want to work for it. My parents are immigrants. Most people's parents or grandparents are immigrants. If you don't like where you are, move. Lol. General Z got the housing market door shut on them. Millennials are in the same boat. Most of us with kids and everything. I am a General X male. I feel badly for young people in your generation. I don't know how people are graduating college and about to live on their own with the cost of living right now. I make decent money for my area. Between my wife and I we're well over $100K a year. But I fucked up. Sold our house after we had our third child to buy a bigger house. We moved in with the in-laws to save money and bam. Fucking COVID hit. Housing closed up for a bit. And now we can't afford a good size house for my family of 5. I am borderline depressed about it. Actually, maybe I am. So given our situation, I can sympathize with younger people. Well, the alternative is to starve, Sue. You do nothing but work. Eat and sleep? You don't watch TV? Listen to music? Talk with friends? Read books? Move to another country where your work is more appreciated. If you weren't 24, I'd say it's a stupid question. Who says we're okay? Do you have an alternative for us? I am okay to start armed insurrection. But that'll take more than a few posts on Reddit. Find something you like. I work on cars. It's not my absolute favorite thing to do, but it's an easy way to make 6 figures and I only work 36 hours a week. My wife started her own business as a hairstylist and she is now into 6-figure territory herself. We are both under 30 and didn't start our careers until we were your age. Gotta be motivated. And can't succumb to the woe is me. Our world is doomed attitude. Present me with some realistic alternatives. Wait. Why do people keep posting very similar versions of this question almost every day on this sub? If by everyone, you also mean people outside US, it is not true. I am working 20 hours a week and doing good. If I will want to save for a house, I will start working 40. What other option is there? Don't worry, friend, it's going to get way worse. Mods need to start removing these dumbass questions. The state of this sub. Because we choose to. There is finally a shortage of people in the USA refusing to work for less than 15 per hour and they are calling it a labor shortage and it's not. It's people finally not willing to work for nothing while their company post record profits. Okay with it? What the hell else am I supposed to do? Starve? The irony of this question being asked so often, we are not okay lol. People aren't okay. This question's been posted daily for the last few weeks. Well, people that can't afford life at all or just barely aren't okay. I don't make over 100K or anything, but I am just fine. Not thrilled about price increases though, like anyone. But even when I averaged about $20 minus 22 an hour, about 42 to 45K a year paying for everything including student loans, I was doing all right while living in a studio apartment and spending extremely frugally. But that was 3 years ago and, like now, still child-free, which helps. And I make more than that now, but not much an option at the moment. In the end, work as much as you need to and hope times change. A recession is here, very likely. Historically, they happen every 10 to 15 years or so. An impressive amount of the U.S. population votes against their own interests. They vote for politicians who oppose unions, who won't raise the minimum wage, who find creative ways to avoid benefits like healthcare. These idiots are literally choosing this and forcing it on the rest of us. It's not everyone. Some of us are actually doing pretty well. Sorry. Who is okay with it? Also, from your description alone, I'm not sure this is a General Z problem as much as it is a being in your early 20s problem. Subscribe for more content.